Your story matters, don't let it fade. When everything changed, you were made.
Hey everyone, this is Wendy back with When Stories, the podcast. I'm joined today with Bron Watson. Welcome, Bron.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So I'm excited to have you here because it's Wednesday night here and Thursday morning there.
I know I nearly said good morning,
Good
but
morning.
it's not morning where you are.
Well, let's just jump right in. I want to have you introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Right, okay. So my name is Bron Watson, and obviously I'm from Australia, and I started the Serenity Project. So this is a community for people who are living with or going through cancer. So I call it living through cancer because we all do it differently. And it's a project all about bringing the science and the soul together, the evidence and perspective. It's not just about, because if you go to Google anything when it comes to cancer, you are going to get 50,000 bazillion hits and you won't know what's right. So how I got here was that I have had a diagnosis of a curable cancer. And that was back in 2017. And then obviously in 2023, I've had an added blessing of an incurable blood cancer. So I'm a mum of 5 beautiful boys. I'm married to Paul nearly 30 years. Very excited about that.
Wow.
And obviously I'm a business owner. So I've been in business for myself for 13 years this year. So when you are the business owner and you're it, and you suffer such, I don't want to use the word, let's call them challenges.
Okay.
It can be really challenging on finding what's right for you. And that's where it's all come from.
Yeah, and so with your being a business owner, like you've been on a roller coaster, right? Like you've been all the highs and you've been all the lows. Walk me through some of that because you've had the highs in your business, right? Before all of
I
these
have.
diagnoses, and then it just kind of crash landed on you. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I'm a nurse educator in my previous life. So I've had a double career between marketing and nursing. And back in 2011, I started my very first business called Nurse Power. Now that quickly evolved into a business called Bron Watson. I couldn't work out what to call my business. So I just called it Bron Watson. And I accidentally built a really successful mentoring business. And it was a lot. We had retreats, we had courses online, you name it, we did it. And when the diagnosis of breast cancer came, you don't expect that. And to be in that position when you're the face was beyond crazy. And because I wanted to deliver what I wanted to deliver to my people, I remember after the second round of chemo, catching a glimpse of myself. So clearly hair's already gone, sick as sick. And here I am, I'd done a Facebook Live for my group and I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and I thought, do you want to die? Do you want to die, Bron? Because if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to die. And at 48, and my youngest was what? I don't know, not old, 9, 8. It was such a turning point because in business, you don't expect those kind of turning points. So I had to reinvent very, very quickly in business, along with getting treated with breast cancer. And so as a business owner, it's tough if you haven't got your plan B. And I did not have a plan B. And I don't think many of us do have plan Bs. And it's not about a plan B just in case. It's more about where do you want to go and being clear on what that trajectory would look like. So coming through all of that when you are the face and you, even though we worked together and it was such a, well, financially, I don't know how people work through it. I take my hat off to you if you do. And I say, wow, thank you. I couldn't do it. I was way too sick. Yeah. And so I think it's just that resilience to change, but the ability to go, cool, what can I do? And I didn't know back then when I was actually living Serenity, and I didn't know it because I was looking at the things I could change. And that's where it evolved. And we rebranded in 2022 to the Social Coach. And so as a boutique marketing agency, we've done very well. But of course, then a diagnosis in 2023, it hit the skids again. So And by that stage, though, I have a wonderful team and they basically carried me through.
Wow. So yay for that kind of plan B that probably got built then after, like, okay, let's get shit rolling and make it
It
built the way it's
was,
supposed to build.
yeah, the plan B happened as it went,
Right.
but it was about finding the courage to change. And that was the key for me. And I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't know what that meant, but now I understand what I did. And having the courage to change the things you can, which is part of the Serenity Project.
Right. So there's something to be said about being self-aware enough to know that you were like, do you want to die? Like to really to ask yourself that question and seeing that because as especially women business owners, right? We're going to do it all. We're going to, hustle, 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 make the money, do what we have to do. We're going to just push through, but sometimes that's the worst thing we can do
Well, it
is just
is because,
push through.
I wanted to deliver what I said I was going to deliver at
Yeah.
all cost. And what it was the cost of me.
Yeah.
And I'd built a business a bit like a saber-toothed tiger. I'd built this big beast and I couldn't get off because if I got off, the damn saber-toothed tiger was going to eat me, is how it felt. So it was it was a very interesting thing because I think as women, we do want to nurture, we want to grow. And I'm so passionate about my clients getting what they wanting to achieve, sometimes even more than that they were, but it came at a cost. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until I had the biggest slap of my life, which was, Bron, do you want to die? Did I go, wow, is this the how I want to be and how do I want to live? And the answer was no. There was five
Wow.
little humans out there, plus a husband and a dog that needed me.
Yeah, and you probably don't know this, but you actually inspired me to look at one stories a little bit differently. And so, yeah, and to get to
Really?
build it in a way that if something happened to me, it would still go on. So that's something that's going on in the background. So
I
there's some cool,
love that. Thank you
yeah,
for sharing that. I think that is amazing. And you know what? It's not a plan B to go, what if, or, it's just having the awareness to go, what is this story? And that's what When Stories is about, is that legacy of being able to share no matter what. Because you know what? Tomorrow's not guaranteed to anyone,
and
So
yeah, and I think
well done
go ahead.
you.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, so so I think stories like yours are important because it kind of wakes people up to think, I'm not going to live forever. What if something, maybe not me, it could be my husband, could be anything, could literally take us out of our business. It could be
Yeah.
anything. And, we had something where my daughter had her first child. She had some heart conditions. And so I was away from my business and I'm the only one running it. So,
Yeah.
listening to your story, I'm like, I need to change that. I can't be the only one. Otherwise, when I'm gone, this is gone. And that's not the goal. I want to leave the legacy behind
Yeah.
and build it. So yeah, you definitely inspired me to think differently about what I was building. So yeah, I appreciate
Wow.
that. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that's been an awareness because that's huge. And it's
Yeah.
only, I say the words, we want to create awareness, to be aware, to be able to then go and find the right answer for you and whatever that answer is.
Right.
And um, yeah, it's, am I grateful for the lessons from cancer? I'm grateful I've learnt them, but geez, I
Right.
could have had another. I can't, can't I have something else?
Right. Give me something else.
Something
Right.
else, please. But
Yeah.
I'm very grateful and being able to have the strength to be able to say these words.
Yeah. So in speaking about, your one story and you getting on stage, walk me through a little bit of what that was like for you between writing it and getting on stage and speaking it out loud. Because I know there was challenges, of course. Everyone
There
who
was.
does this, it takes a lot of courage to get up on that stage and say the thing. So what was that like for you?
It was. So I think with the work that I did with you in terms of getting the story out, I actually wrote the story very late at night when everyone had gone to bed. And I wrote it in maybe 2 hours. And the
Wow.
story that I wrote to the one that I spoke changed very, very little. And that's the strength. And, depending on what you believe, for me, I believe I was gifted that story. And so that's what made it easy. I didn't overthink it. It just what it was. And keeping the structure was very helpful to be able to tell that story. And then, of course, practicing the story and then practicing and practicing. And then obviously, again, then when getting to Wisconsin, and then the day, because I was the second last and watching the most incredible women on stage, and they all just told their story, and then realizing that my short-term memory issue, which I believe is definitely medication drug related. I think I had a stem cell transplant, and when that chemotherapy was given, I reckon it's knocked off some short-term memory cells because I don't have a great short-term memory. And obviously 2 hours before I got on stage, I'm realizing, Bron, I cannot recall what I need to recall. And then having to wear glasses and then having to take my notes onto the stage and it not being the way that I had envisioned, which is like everybody else. Mine wasn't like that. And that was a shock. But it's like, you know what? You're here, do the job. And it was exactly the way it was meant to be. And just accepting what I couldn't change. I couldn't change it. I couldn't remember, even though I knew it.
It was kind of a lesson, exactly what you teach, the Serenity
It was
Project, right? Kind of letting
exactly
go.
the lesson. And knowing that I couldn't change it and realize that was the realization that it was actually a problem. You know, I'd known for months that there'd been, if I don't write it down, it doesn't happen. But when
Right.
it's again like wacko slap in the face,
Yeah.
it was like, okay, this is your reality. Damn it.
Yeah.
Okay, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to have to wear glasses. No, I didn't want that. Look, too bad, Bron. You're wearing glasses and you're taking your notes and they're not even prepared in little cards. They're like whopping A4 pieces of paper cut in half.
But the thing is you delivered the talk so
I
beautifully that nobody even is going to notice that you had them in your hand. We've had other people who have had to have like a table on stage to lean on because they've had also medical things. I've had notes on stage before for other people. So it's like, it's just a tool. They're all just tools.
It's a tool, and my when story was exactly meant to be that one.
Yeah,
And that
100%.
was exactly like that. So I feel that having that ability again, not pivot, but be flexible, to be
Yeah.
flexible and then still be able to be the person I wanted to be. And when I did my launch here in Australia, I had 30 people in my lounge room, and everyone kept saying, oh, we're just waiting to start crying. And I'm thinking, wow, well, that wasn't what I would have thought. But they said, but then you drop these one-liners and then they'd all start laughing. And she said, maybe that was the reality of that it's not all tears and doom and gloom, because it's not.
Yeah.
Do I look doom and gloom? The answer is no. So therefore, it was such a great journey. I'm forever grateful, Wendy, for you showing us getting through that and sharing something that on a topic that a lot of people either A, can't relate to, or B, don't want to. And that's totally and absolutely okay. It's the ones that matter. The ones that matter to me are the ones that are sitting in that cancer institute about to have their chemo, or the ones waiting for a scan, or the ones who have been told words that they didn't want to hear. That's what matters.
Yeah. And my hope with it is that, and you kind of touched on it, is when you get that diagnosis, right? You go to Google, right? And then you see things that are going to scare the bejesus out of you. My hope is they're going to Google the right thing and your video is going to come up. And they're going
Oh,
to say,
wow. I
okay,
hadn't thought of that.
yeah. And I think of that. I think of those things. I'm like, it's going to get to the person that needs to see it. And that's the whole point of One Stories, is that even if it's one person, that's that one person whose life your talk, your story can change.
Yeah.
And so that moves the needle for somebody else who might have been hopeless or scared. Then they see somebody like you on stage, like, wow, that's, okay, I can do this.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how
And
can, go ahead.
yeah, you go.
Oh, I was just going to ask you where they can find out more information around the Serenity Project, but if you had something more to add, I'd love to hear it.
No, I
Okay.
think I feel that if there's nothing else that I can encourage people to think about, is that there is an answer. You've got to find it, and it's not always science and it's not always soul, because there is a big divide and there shouldn't be a divide. But that's where we, Serenity Project community, are coming together to bring it closer, and that's where the word healing comes from. At the end of the day, we can all heal because we can't all cure. So where they can find me. Okay. So the serenityproject.com.au, and that's the website. And obviously on socials, it's just straight Bron Watson. It's a business page. And then obviously on Instagram, Bron Watson again. I think it's Bron_Watson. But if you search Bron Watson, you're going to see it. And yeah, love to connect because there's questions people ask. And if I don't have the answer, I can guarantee you I know someone who does.
Yeah. And we'll put all your links and things in the show notes. So if you're listening to this now and if you're curious about the Serenity Project, maybe you typed it in wrong and it's not coming up, just go ahead in the show notes and click on it and you'll find Bron there. So thank you again, Bron, so much for sharing your story, being vulnerable, and even in the midst of you having that realization of I have to wear glasses and bring my notes on stage. Like it was brilliant. It was so great. So those listening, you're going to hear Bron's one story right after we finish the interview. So thank you so much, Bron.
Thanks for having me.
Your story matters, don't let it fade. When everything changed, you were made.
It was the 23rd of February 2023 when everything changed. I found myself sitting in a doctor's surgery asking if I had cancer again, and the answer being yes, and that treatment was to start in just a week or two. 2023 had started like many years before. Great New Year's goals for the family, for the business. I'd had a tough few years, but things were looking great and I was loving the traction and growth. I'd been given a referral to see a specialist, a haematologist, because a blood result had kept being low, but had taken a while to get in to see the specialist. I wasn't too concerned. It was routine. In fact, I'd been given a full clean of health literally a month before. So when everything changed, yes, another when moment was on the 13th of January when I had a call from that haematologist telling me that my bloods were off, really off. And that phone call brought me to my knees. What do you mean I have abnormal cancer markers? What do you mean I need a bone marrow biopsy? My heart shuddered because as a nurse educator in my previous life, I'd actually assisted in these invasive tests and I couldn't believe it was going to be happening to me. And the waiting game began. I waited for the phone call to be booked in again with a specialist. I waited for the phone call to be booked in for the bone marrow biopsy. And then I waited for the results to come in. And then I waited for what Jock, my specialist, already knew, that there was cancer again and the oxygen left the room on that 23rd of February 2023. Now, I'd spent a lot of time on my own during that 6 weeks period. I cried a river of tears. I couldn't believe what was happening. I couldn't speak to my friends and my family because I didn't have the answers to the questions that they were asking. I spent hours and hours looking to the heavens, praying, please, hoping, begging for time to process, time to deal with what's going on. But no, I didn't get that time. You see, this wasn't my first rodeo with the chaos of cancer. I'd been through this exact thing 5 years previously with a lovely dose of breast cancer. Mastectomy first, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, brutal treatment to a cancer drug, an anti-cancer drug to this day. So going through those 5 years of what I call, everyone knows it's called scanxiety. So going through scanxiety during that 5-year period where they do tests, checking to see if that cancer comes back, it didn't get any easier for me. But as those years rolled on to the magical 5-year mark, where, according to the system, you're cured. And just like this second diagnosis, I'd be given no time, and I'd prayed and I'd begged, please, please give me time. But I had 6 days between diagnosis and the operating table. I finally called it the shit show 2.0. The thing is, with a cancer diagnosis like breast cancer, there's lots of really great outcomes. When there's a second diagnosis with an incurable result, which, they're actually calling it a chronic disease with no cure now. My specialist jock, he called it the marathon. And after the last few years, I get it. They call me rare. But I don't think it's a compliment. But like life for many of us, I've had many ups and downs. I'm married to the most amazing human called Paul, and we have 5 beautiful sons, 2 fur babies, and we live in regional Australia in New South Wales. Back when the kids were little, so when there was 5 children under 11, we were busy. It used to take me 15 minutes just to get them in the car. School drop-off, activities, sports, you name it. I was the taxi mum, I was the good mum, I did it all, but there was a small part in my heart where I wanted to do something for myself. And that time came in my early 40s when the baby was a baby. He's now this big. When the baby was a baby, and I started my first business. With a background in nursing and marketing, it couldn't be that hard, right? Well, how wrong could I be? I'd never worked so hard to be a business owner, to be an entrepreneur, but you know what? I was just too stubborn to quit. So what I've learned from these past 13 months as a business owner, I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about myself. Just one moment here. I've just got to find my notes. What I learnt was that I could pretty much fix anything because everything's fixable, right? I know, I can hear you saying, what's the good in the shit show 2.0, Bron? Well, it's taken me quite some time to find it, but find it, I have. So the past few years, I've been learning about one little simple thing in life. I call it serenity. It's actually what I call the Serenity Project, finding the calm in the chaos of cancer. It can be done even when you're having a lot of what's going on and you don't want it to be happening. Because medicine, the Western type, likes to put you in 2 buckets. The bucket of healing, the bucket of curing, or the bucket of not curing, incurable. What I'd like to see, I would like to change that narrative and I'd like to add in a 3rd bucket. Now that bucket I call the healing bucket because everyone can heal, no matter what your diagnosis or a prognosis, where they tell you, Bron, you've only got this many years. I call cap on that. Because it's not an either and it's not an or. I believe it's an and when it comes to treatment. More importantly, I believe it's your choice of what you choose for your treatment plan. Because for some, the word cure might not be the right word. To beat, to battle, to be a survivor. When people say to me, oh my God, Bron, you're a survivor. When I think of survivor, I think of headbands and people eating cockroaches. Like, that is not cool. I don't want to be a survivor. All right? And that leads to the word of hope. But when I think of the word hope, to me it feels like there's a loss there somewhere. So what I'd like to change is, what about if we change it to the word of healing and serenity? because God grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That prayer, that was penned nearly 100 years ago by the guys at AA. They nailed it. I have held that prayer when nothing else could hold me. And just so you know, swap out the word God to whatever you believe. Universe, source, God, Dennis, doesn't matter. It's your serenity. Because cancer is chaotic, it's very, very messy, and it changes when you least expect it. The vortex of fear is very real, and you get sucked in before you even know what's going on. But I want you to think of it like this. Imagine there's a fishbowl. There's a fishbowl. It's got muddy water in it. You know there's a goldfish in there somewhere, and you're stirring it around and you're looking for that damn fish. You know it's there, but the more you stir it, the muddier it gets. But if we just leave that fishbowl, if we let it stand, if we let it be, the sediment will sink to the bottom. It will clear. You will see the fish, and you will know what's going on. So the Serenity Project is just like that. The more I frantically looked for answers, the more I researched, the more I asked so many questions. I even went to Dr. Google. Please do not Google multiple myeloma because it is not nice. Just saying. But the more chaotic it became. But when I remember to sit, when I remember to stay calm, and when I remember to stay in the present, aka let that dirty sediment sink to the bottom, the more space I have to figure out what I can control and what I can't, but also find wisdom. A very dear mentor of mine has taught me this fabulous formula. It's called the A=A way of thinking. So when shit happens, because in the shit show 2.0, a lot of shit has happened. But when stuff happens, we call them the A moment. Our brains try to scramble, it tries to correlate, it tries to make sense of this really chaotic space. So Kerry calls these the B, C, D, E, and F. So B might be what's happened to you in the past. C could be your values. D could be what you've learned as a child. And E is all the things that you believe to be true. Which means that when A happens, those A moments happen, we layer all of this meaning onto this situation. And we're wanting to create it into something that it might not be. So what A=A means is that A, the moment, is just the moment. Full fucking stop. It just is what it is. All right? So the movie that you play when the A moment happens, you know, when you're winning that Oscar-winning award, because it's just this incredible, chaotic Hollywood movie, it's not real. Because A=A, full fucking stop. Sorry, Ollie, for swearing. So right now, I'm in remission, I feel fantastic, and I'm as good as my last blood results. And more importantly, I have found the calm in the chaos. Now, I liken it a bit like a Google map. So imagine getting out your phone, you've opened up the map, and you've actually set the destination to healing. You notice I'm saying healing and not healed? Because it's a forever journey. But you've set it to healing. It calibrates, and then you find that lovely blue line to follow. And as you go along, You hit a left-hand turn. Something happens, an A moment. You run into a roadblock. It's, oh, here we go again. But what does a map do when we hit a roadblock? It recalibrates. Before you know it, boom, off you go again. The blue line on that Google map towards your healing is different to the Google map that I've got for my destination. Am I there yet? No. I have plenty of left turns still, but you do know what? I have my path. I have my little blue line. Does it mean that there's no sadness, no tears, no grief, no frustration? Hell no. There are good days and there's bad days because that is completely normal. Because the Serenity Project, it's not about rainbows and lollipops and being a Pollyanna. It's about knowing no matter what, there is a way for you to feel the best you can feel no matter what is going on. Just like getting out that phone, keeping an eye on that blue line and following that blue line. You don't need to know how. You just need to know you will. And the great thing about finding calm is that every single map is different, which is why when I share things, I'm very reticent to share things because what I find helpful may not be helpful to you. That's why I call them just a thought, because the last thing we need in this space is another to-do list, another action step. Because it's not about giving you things to do or things to not do, or worse, a schedule to get you up at 5, meditating by 5:10 if you don't want to. The one thing I would encourage you to do, though, is just to think about finding your serenity, to work on your very own project, to make every day count, to enjoy every moment that makes a memory. It's taken me a while, but I actually do have a definition of serenity now because it's a very old-fashioned word. For me, it's not a mindset. It's not something you can do, and it's certainly not something you can schedule in your diary. It's about slowing down. It's about just being in that moment and being present and being a human being. Trusting 100% in yourself that you will, even when you don't know how. Because when the shit show comes, it feels like this. You cannot see anything but that situation. The Serenity Project pushes it out just that little bit to provide you space, to provide you options, to work out what you can and what you can't, and show you wisdom. So I'd like you to just take these just a thought messages, pick the ones that resonate, ignore the rest, because our world loves to set goals. It loves to bust our butts to achieve them. Go the hustle club. It actually rewards the art of discipline with a to-do list as long as your arm. But my wish for you all is to stop that, to just slow down. And as the water in the fishbowl, just let it sit. Let the sediment fall to the bottom so that you can see clearly what matters most in your life, but more importantly, show you the options on how to find your serenity. Not mine, but yours. Thank you.
Your story matters, don't let it fade. When everything changed, you were made.